What if an AI could understand you better than you understand yourself? This question seems futuristic, until you realize that, in a way, it's already happening. Every day, algorithms analyze your screen time, your schedules, your searches, your impulses, and they know more about your patterns than you do yourself. But what if, for 7 days, you let an AI not only observe, but guide your decisions? Not to control your life, but to reveal what you can't see about yourself. Imagine waking up and receiving a message telling you exactly what you should do, when, for how long, and even predicting when you'll get distracted. Now imagine that same AI pointing out your weaknesses with surgical precision, mercilessly, without filters, without excuses. The promise is maximum productivity. The fear? Discovering that the machine knows you better than you dare admit. This is the kind of experiment that leaves you torn between excitement and discomfort. Because on one hand, you want to improve. You want to evolve. You want to finally follow a plan without sabotaging yourself. But on the other hand, there's a strange feeling, opening up your routine, your habits, and even your thoughts to something that doesn't get tired, doesn't procrastinate, and doesn't forget. And that's exactly what I did. For 7 days, I surrendered my routine, my schedule, my distractions, and my mental life to an artificial intelligence. Not as a joke, but as a real test. A dive into the frontier between technology, behavior, and human vulnerability. So, what happens when you let an AI train you? Do you transform? Do you discover yourself? Or do you realize that maybe you're not ready for how much it sees? Let's find out together. Before we start, hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and bring more videos about AI, neuroscience, and smarter self-improvement. We look for coaches, productivity systems, planners, apps, not because we're unmotivated, but because our minds weren't built for the world we live in. Modern life throws an endless stream of tasks, notifications, responsibilities, and expectations at us. And somewhere between "I'll do it later" and "where do I even start?" everything turns into noise. Most people aren't lacking discipline. They're drowning in cognitive clutter. Your to-do list grows faster than your ability to process it. You jump between priorities without finishing anything. Your habits don't match your goals, and your goals don't match your daily actions. This is the real chaos. A week full of good intentions, but a brain constantly switching contexts. A calendar that looks organized until you realize nothing happened as planned. Sticky notes, reminders, color-coded apps, yet you still feel behind. So we search for external structure. Someone, or something, to help us cut through the fog. Traditionally, that role belongs to a coach. Someone who observes your behavior, identifies your blind spots, and guides you with perspective. You can't see from the inside, but coaches are human. They miss things, they get tired, they rely on intuition as much as data. And that leads to the question that sparked this entire experiment. What if an AI could analyze your patterns more objectively than you ever could? Imagine a system that tracks your mood, your energy, your time, your micro-behaviors, then correlates them into insights you'd never notice. No judgment, no emotional bias, no "I think this might help." Just pure pattern recognition. Visually, this is where the screen fills with glitchy calendars, collapsing to-do lists, productivity charts dipping downward, notifications exploding, the overwhelming mental storm most of us silently live in. And in the middle of that storm rises a single idea. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe you just need a different kind of observer. When you let an AI analyze your behavior, you're essentially exposing the invisible architecture behind your decisions. The patterns you repeat without noticing, the micro choices that shape your day, the emotional spikes that influence your productivity. AI doesn't guess who you are. It detects you through data. Here's what's happening under the hood. AI breaks behavior into tiny, measurable components: timestamps, frequency, reaction time, task duration, energy levels, even the way you switch between apps. To us, these actions feel random. To an AI, they form mathematical signatures, It looks for repetition. When you procrastinate, when you're most focused, what triggers distraction, which tasks you avoid, what habits collapse under stress. Then it builds predictions, not in a mystical way, but by calculating the probability of your next action based on all previous behavior. In other words, it sees the version of you that exists between your intentions. This ties directly into feedback loops in the brain. Every time you complete a task, check a notification, or jump to something easier, your brain produces a small hit of dopamine. These micro rewards shape your habits far more than your goals do. AI, unlike humans, doesn't get fooled by these dopamine traps. If you say your priority is exercise, but 90% of your actions revolve around scrolling, the AI doesn't judge, it just reflects the truth. Humans, on the other hand, create stories to justify behavior. That's why we're terrible at self-evaluation. We rely on memory, mood, and perception. All three are unreliable. We underestimate how long things take. We think we're more consistent than we really are. We assume we're making choices when many are autopilot reactions. Cognitive biases distort everything. Optimism bias. Tomorrow I'll do better. Planning fallacy. Underestimating task duration. Habit blindness. Not seeing routines we've repeated for years. Emotional reasoning. Believing feelings over facts. AI has none of these. It reads the data without ego, shame, or narrative. It tracks the exact loops you fall into, not the loops you wish you were living in. Visually, this segment fills with neural network animations. Small dots pulsing as they connect, patterns forming, lines strengthening as behavior repeats. Then a comparison. A human brain clouded with emotion, memory, and noise, contrasted against a clean AI interface mapping patterns with precision. The core scientific insight. Humans make decisions based on feeling and habit. AI makes decisions based on pattern and probability. And when you combine the two, your emotional awareness with its analytical clarity, you get something rare. A mirror that finally shows how your mind actually operates, not how you imagine it does. To understand what an AI coach can actually do, you need to see how it was built. It wasn't a magical algorithm or some complex custom code. It was a structured system made of prompts, rules, parameters, and integrations designed to mimic what a real coach does, but with more consistency and zero emotional bias. I started by defining its identity and purpose. The foundational prompt was something like, "You are my personal performance coach. Your job is to analyze my habits, predict my distractions, and create small, realistic daily actions that push me toward long-term goals. You must be objective, data-driven, and brutally honest." Then I added constraints. It couldn't suggest unrealistic goals. It had to break everything into micro steps. It needed to track patterns and reference them later. It had to explain the reasoning behind its recommendations. From there, I connected it to the tools I already used. Notion, where it tracked habit logs and reflections. Google Calendar, where it scheduled microtasks and blocked focus periods. Focus apps like Motion, Reclaimed AI, or Notion Focus, which helped automate deep work blocks. And a simple time tracking extension that logged how I spent my day without manual effort. The idea wasn't to make the AI smart. The idea was to make my life readable to the AI. Once everything was connected, the AI performed 3 core functions. 1, it analyzed my routine. It looked at when I woke up, when I focused best, what tasks I avoided, and how long I actually worked versus how long I thought I worked. It detected patterns I never noticed, like the fact that I always slowed down between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., or that I stayed stuck switching tabs whenever a task required deep reasoning. 2, it predicted mental dips before they happened. Using basic pattern recognition, it learned when I was most likely to get distracted. It sent short prompts like, "You usually lose momentum around this time. Take a 3-minute reset." It wasn't motivational, it was preventative. 3, It suggested habits and generated micro goals. Instead of exercise for 1 hour, it gave me things like 5 push-ups between tasks, 10 minutes of sunlight within the first hour of waking, 1 deep work block before checking messages, small enough not to resist, consistent enough to build momentum. And this is where the neuroscience clicks. Your brain hates overload. When you remove the need to decide, when a system tells you what to do, when to do, and why it matters, your cognitive load drops. Lower load means less procrastination. Micro goals leverage the brain's reward system. Small wins, dopamine, motivation, repetition. The AI wasn't controlling me. It was clearing mental friction so my brain could operate at its best. Visually, this part of the video flows through. A clean chatbot window analyzing text, calendar views reshaping themselves automatically, small animations of tasks snapping into place, and graphs showing distraction peaks dropping week by week. The message is clear. When designed right, an AI coach doesn't replace your discipline. It removes the obstacles that were draining it. The first day felt weird. Having an AI watch my habits, even just through data, created a sense of being exposed. Every distraction, every delay, every moment I opened a new tab was reflected back at me with uncomfortable accuracy. It wasn't judging me, but it made the invisible visible, and that alone was unsettling. By day 2, resistance kicked in. There were moments where the AI sent a prompt like, "You tend to lose focus around now. Take a 3-minute reset." And my first reaction was annoyance, almost like someone tapping you on the shoulder right when you're trying to avoid doing what you know you should do. That was the first insight. I wasn't fighting the AI. I was fighting my own patterns. By day 3, the system began revealing things I had never noticed. I consistently avoided tasks with unclear instructions. My energy plummeted exactly 45 minutes after lunch. I checked messages whenever a task demanded emotional effort. These weren't things the AI guessed. It derived them from pure behavior, unfiltered, objective, and slightly uncomfortable. The turning point came around day 4. The micro goals started creating a rhythm, small, doable actions that built momentum instead of draining it. The decision anxiety, that constant, "what should I do next?" began to fade. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't drowning in choices anymore. My days felt lighter, not easier, but clearer. There were real wins. Discipline felt more natural, not forced. Clarity replaced the mental fog I hadn't even realized was normal. Decision fatigue dropped dramatically. Tasks flowed into each other. But the experiment wasn't flawless. Some days the AI completely misread my mood. It would push productivity when what I actually needed was rest. Other times, I realized I was becoming too dependent, waiting for the AI to approve my next move. And yes, there were moments when it recommended tasks I simply ignored, triggering a sort of digital guilt. Still, when I compared the before and after, the difference was undeniable. Time lapses of my work sessions showed more focus and fewer stops. My task completion graph had a noticeable upward curve, and my evenings, usually chaotic, felt calmer because the noise in my head wasn't carrying over from the day. The experiment didn't make me perfect. It made me aware, and awareness alone was enough to change everything. At the end of the 7 days, one thing became clear. AI won't replace your mind, but it can reveal what your mind can't see. We spend so much of our lives operating on autopilot, trusting habits we don't remember building and reacting to impulses we never chose. And because we're inside the system, we can't see the system. AI, with its distance and its objectivity, becomes a mirror, not one that flatters you, but one that finally shows you the truth. But here's the balance that matters. AI is a tool, not a crutch. If you rely on it to think for you, you lose agency. If you use it to show you how you think, you gain awareness. The kind of awareness that leads to better habits, sharper focus, and a life lived with intention instead of reaction. This experiment wasn't about outsourcing discipline. It was about learning how my brain behaves when I stopped guessing. The AI didn't fix my life. It simply illuminated the places where I was getting in my own way. And once you see your patterns clearly, you can't unsee them. That clarity alone is transformative. So imagine what would change if you allowed technology to guide your self-awareness, not to control you, not to dictate who you should be, but to help you observe who you really are beneath the noise. That's the future of personal growth, human intuition amplified by machine insight. If this video helped you rethink how you use technology to understand yourself, like the video and subscribe for smarter self-improvement with AI, neuroscience, and mindset.